differences can exist in terms of whether you like one design language more or the other more. The weight is very evenly distributed and you have no problem managing the weight, even though they are both almost the same weight, you know. I got a chance to ride this for about 30 kilometers when we were coming down the Kolar highway. So my review is going to be based on these 30 kilometers itself. Very exciting day. It is the 1st of May, which is called the International Labour Day. Good thing about this day for us office goers is that we don't have to give any labor, because it's a holiday for us. And I'm off to one of my rides, as I do on weekends or holidays. And this time the day is very special because I am riding nothing but the KTM Adventure-X. I must thank you guys for having requested this video, because so far I have done comparison videos with my GS310, the Scrambler 400X and the Himalayan 452, all recent launches. But then someone requested me to do a compare with the ADV 390, and I realized I have not compared the GS with one of the motorcycles that has actually been the benchmark of ADV motorcycling in India, in terms of the sales, in terms of the popularity actually. Well, the GS is older than the ADV 390. It is almost 5-year-old, and the ADV 390 is almost 3-year-old now. So these two are the oldest kids in the market. Of course they are kids because they have undergone some updates, but the Scrambler and the Himalayan are relatively new kids on the block. So here we go. As I'm riding, as you can see, some of the pothole-ridden roads of Bangalore, there is no dearth of these potholes right now, and the rainy season has not yet begun. Thankfully or woefully, because we are all looking forward to the rain. I was just wondering what will happen to these potholes once the rain starts. So let me tell you the initial impressions about city riding on this bike. Yes, I think there are enough comparators, enough expert opinions on YouTube. You can look after them, those videos yourself. But I think I resonate with your feelings that the gearing is a little tall in this bike, and like for example, I am currently at about 2000 RPM. I am at the 3rd gear and the engine has started already knocking. If you remember my video, I had shared that in the Scrambler 400X at 2000 RPM I was able to ride even in the 5th or 6th gear. You can't even imagine this. So let me go to the 4th gear, and you just feel that yes, the bike is almost about to stall and stop. So I cannot just ride above the 3rd gear at 2000 RPM, which is worse than the BMW G310 GS, because in the GS I think at 2000 RPM I can still ride at the 4th gear or the 5th gear. I can manage, but it's just not manageable on this bike. So because of the taller gearing, it's actually easier to ride at higher speeds than at lower speeds or city speeds actually. Of course you can, but you have to shift gears more frequently. So if you're ready to live with that ordeal, it's fine for you. What about the ride quality on the city potholes? Well, it's nice, not a problem. Yes, I have to admit it is not as plush as the BMW or the Himalayan 452. Probably if I have to rate these bikes in terms of the ride quality in city traffic, I will probably give the BMW the number 1 rank, followed by the Himalayan 452, followed by the Scrambler, and then followed by the ADV 390. Followed by the ADV 390, and the Scrambler will probably come last. So yes, this is not really a city bike. Can you not do city duties? Yes, you can do city duties on these bikes. You can do city duties on any bike, even on a Harley Davidson. So that's not the question. The question is, are you comfortable doing it? Are you comfortable changing gears frequently? Are you comfortable taking those pothole-ridden bumps and thuds on your back? Well, if you don't want to do that, if you want a plush ride in city conditions, in pothole-ridden conditions, then you are better off with the BMW or with the Himalayan, I would say. Now as you can see, I am at 2000 RPM. I am fourth gear. It's knocking too much. It's not doable. So that's the trouble with this bike actually. It's not comfortable at higher gears and lower RPM. So if you are into 80% city commute and 20% highway commute, I would ask you to look elsewhere. In fact, if that is your commuting style, 80% city and 20% highway, I think the best 400cc, 3 to 400cc bike in the market today is the Scrambler 400X. It's most ideally fitted. It's also sound the best according to me. At lower RPMs, it is the best sounding machine. It is the best built machine, and it is the best suited machine for city rides. It has got that additional ground clearance over the Speed 400, so it does soak some of the undulations and potholes of the city. It's better than the Speed 400 or the other street bikes that you get in the market today. But of course, it is not as great as these three bikes: the ADV 390, the Himalayan 452, and the GS310. Towards my favorite destination, the Kolar Highway. Let me tell you about my initial impressions about the ergonomics of the bike compared to my experience on the GS. Well, the first impression you get the moment you are aloft this bike is that it's a very hard place to be. I mean, it was a similar feeling with the Himalayan. The seat was large and accommodating, but it was hard, and it is almost the same with the ADV 390. The seat is large. There is no complaint about the space available, the real estate available on the seat, but it is hard. It is not plush, as plush as the GS, and it is even less plusher than the Scrambler 400X. That is my initial impression. In terms of the seating comfort, I would say the GS is the number one bike, because somehow BMW over the years has mastered the art of making an adventure tourer very comfortable. Because of the larger capacity GS they have built, etc. Of course, they are very premium machines, so I have not ridden them. But even the GS310 carries some of those DNAs, and one of the DNAs is of course not the engine. It is the quality of the ride. It gives you a kind of cocooned kind of feeling. The moment you are seated on the GS, it engulfs you from all sides, and you feel that you are sitting in the bike rather than on the bike. With the ADV 390, the Himalayan, etc., you feel that you are sitting on the bike. They don't really surround you, and they don't really give you that feeling that you can actually be seated here and riding for 15-20 hours at a go. If you are intending to do the Iron Bot challenge, the GS will be the better place to do. But of course, I don't know, sometimes the experts say that a very soft seat, GS seat is not very soft, let me tell you, but a very soft seat is not good for long distance riding, because you will have a sore butt at the end of the day. So the ADV 390 definitely has a hard seat, and if you have to ride it day in and day out or for long distances, you need to do something about the seat. Probably get an aftermarket seat with a better cushioning, or fix a gel seat or something like that. So it is really hard, and you can feel the hardness even more when you jump over the potholes or you jump over the speed breakers. So let me test that. I have not come to any speed breakers right now. I will test it when I go over a rumble strip or when I jump over a speed breaker. Now let me tell you about the second ergonomic factor. Is your riding triangle, and how does the handlebar fall in place the moment you sit on the bike? Well, you sit very upright on this bike. It is even more upright than my GS. The GS has a very upright sitting. In fact, ADVs are supposed to have upright sitting, because that is the sitting position which gives you the most comfort for long distance touring, and that's what ADVs are supposed to do. Apart from the adventure part of it, they are supposed to be tourers. They are adventure tourers. And when you sit on this Adventure 390, you feel the handlebar, of course, comes to your grip in a very natural position. This bike, the one I'm riding, doesn't have a handlebar riser. I have a handlebar riser in my GS, of course, so it kind of is more comfortable to me. but here you sit very straight. Sometimes you feel that you are sitting on a bench. It is a bench kind of feeling. While on the GS, the feeling is you are still sitting inside a sofa. Not a very comfortable sofa, but a normal sofa that we find in our homes. And so you are relatively more comfortable. Here you are relatively more alert. And on this bike, the character of the bike is such that you have to be alert. You don't have a choice, because you have the gearing, which is kind of something you have to deal with every now and then. If you are kind of slowing down, you have to change gears very frequently. The bike is kind of very powerful, let me tell you. It is 43. It is the most powerful of these 4 categories of bikes. These 4 bikes I'm talking about in this category. 43 PS. It's not about a 43 PS of power. This really picks up speed very fast. We'll go and talk about it more when we reach the highway and pick up speed over there. Now still we are within city limits. So you have to be constantly on the alert, and the sitting position is also like that. That will keep you alert. This is not a bike on which you are going to relax and probably half close your eyes, which is something you should never do, but something we can afford to do on the GS, because once you sit on the GS and you have an open stretch of road, you kind of get so comfortable on the seat and cocooned inside the seat, and the position of the handlebar, the kind of suspension it has, you feel that, you know, I am actually on a cruiser rather than an adventure motorcycle, with the advantage of the ADV motorcycle of the long travel suspension, because the cruisers will probably give you a jolt the moment you come across some kind of an undulation, if the road is anything less than perfect. Well, the GS will not let you do that. Now I can realize why the big GS, the 1250 etc. are so popular internationally, because of the kind of feeling that they give. And I have spoken to some of the GS 1250 riders, they exactly resonate the same thing. They say that when you're seated on the GS and traveling on the highways, you don't even feel like getting down from the bike. It is so comfortable. You feel that I can do it all day long. So that's the advantage of the GS. So on the ADV 390, actually this is more of a sporty machine, and you have to be alert and you have to be constantly changing the gears. But if you're ready to do that, if you're an enthusiastic rider, this is the machine you should own and not the GS. The GS might appear a little sedate to enthusiasts, and that is the reason why I believe the ADV 390 sells in such high numbers compared to the GS. Of course, there is a brand proposition, there is a value for money proposition, and there is a service network proposition, which also contribute to the lower sales numbers of the GS. Road, even within city limits, like I am, this is a rumble strip. Oh, so nice. It's not as bad as some of the street bikes or cruiser bikes that we ride, but you can actually glide over the rumble streets, not a problem. I didn't do saddling this time, but it was comfortable. Okay, not as plush as the GS, probably as good as the Scrambler, I would say. I would rate the Scrambler and the ADV 390 similar in terms of crossing potholes or rumble strips. But the good thing of the bike is what I am going to show you now. So I am at about 2,500 RPM. I am on the 4th gear. Let me just ring the throttle. And to see the way the speed picks up, you feel that everything will vanish behind you in a blink. So even the Scrambler is lightningly fast, let me tell you. For this segment, the Scrambler and the Himalayan both are extremely fast. In fact, they have more torque than the ADV 390. This has about 37 Nm of torque, and the good part about this is this torque comes at a higher RPM, actually about 7,500 RPM. The Himalayan has got almost 40 Nm of torque. It comes at 7,000 RPM, and that's a problem with the GS, because it does not have, of course it has got a smaller heart. It is a 313cc machines compared to this, its 400cc siblings actually in the category. So the GS has a power deficit and it has got a displacement deficit. So then you can feel the torque instantly on all the three bikes, but this particular, it comes to life just above 4,000 RPM. The moment you cross 4,000 RPM, the gearing, the sitting, the comfort, nothing matters. What matters is the way things vanish behind you. So if you are an enthusiast, this is the bike you should have, and nothing else in this category is what I can promise you. If you are looking at enthusiastic riding, if you are looking at breaking the sound barrier, please don't try, that was a joke. Then this is the bike you should be on. Another part of the ergonomics, that's how easy it is to take a turn inside the city traffic when you have a kind of back-to-back traffic. I think this scores a point or two over the GS because this is more nimble in traffic conditions. I think it has got a shorter turning radius. I'm not sure about the numbers, but at least it feels easier to maneuver than the GS. They have a similar kind of size or dimension, the GS and the ADV, but I think the GS feels a little larger in proportion, and that results in a kind of a greater difficulty in taking turns within city limits. So if you are riding within city limits and your priority is ease of turning radius, ease of picking up speed instantly, I think this is a better proposition. But the only reason why I would prefer the GS in the city limits is the ride quality. Because in the city limits, you cannot see the potholes and the undulations every time. There are times when you will miss them because of the traffic in front of you or behind you or beside you. On a highway, you can always see what's in front of you, ahead of you. But in the city, you cannot see, and sometimes you end up, landing with a thud inside a pothole. And there is no dearth of such potholes in our country, even in the big cities. And that's when, the GS is a better proposition because it kind of absorbs those bumps and it doesn't transmit much to your back. So I'm reaching the Hoskote Toll Plaza and I will take a small halt over here, probably grab a cup of tea or something and get going on my highway ride experience of the ADV 390. And you can't really keep talking without having your first cup of tea in the morning, isn't it? It's so addictive. Tea kudi? The traffic out here and we have hit the highway, but there are some rumble strips over here. So I'm not going to stand on the foot pegs, but I'm going to take them sitting on my ADV. Not bad at all, let me tell you. In fact, this is better than the Scrambler 400X if you have to take the rumble strips sitting on them. So it is not as good as the GS or the Himalayan. They are better, but this is also not bad. And so we have hit the highway actually, and what you can see on the ADV immediately is that this engine comes to life after about 3000 RPM. So between 3 to 4000 RPM, you can see right now I'm on the 4th gear. I can be on the 5th gear, but I have to cross the 3000 RPM mark. So it's okay, between 3 and 4000 RPM on the 5th gear, it's fine. But the moment you cross the 4th gear and it crosses the 4000 RPM mark, and it crosses it very fast, you just need to give a half twist of the throttle, a little twist, and it just crosses, and in the blink of an eye it will reach 6000 RPM. This doesn't happen on the GS. In fact, between 4 and 6000 RPM is the sweet spot of the GS, and you have to enjoy the ride below 6000 RPM. Above that, there are some vibrations and uneasiness that creeps in, which I feel will not be there. I've still not touched those kind of speeds over here, but it comes up very fast. The acceleration between 4 and 6000 RPM is breathtaking, absolutely, in this category. So if you are someone who would like to enjoy your rides on the highway and you like to live life above the 4000 RPM mark, this is the machine for you. Out of all these 4 machines that I'm talking about, this is the machine. Now I understand why it is so popular among the youngsters. The way it behaves after 4000 RPM. I'm yet to touch the higher RPMs and feel how it feels like. And one more important thing about the ergonomics is, of course, the position of the gear lever, the position of the brake lever, the rear brake, and how they naturally fall, within your area of zone of comfort. and it's very nice, I would say. Not a problem at all. This is a complaint I had about the Himalayan. This is not a complaint I had about the GS Auto Scrambler, but I think the position of the gear lever is fine. So you can rest your foot peg, just touch the gear brake lever. You should not do that actually, but if you want to be a safe rider, you can always do that, and not a problem at all. It's very well placed, ergonomically very sound. The gears, fantastic, not a problem. They've got a nice tactile feel. In fact, I like this gear more than any of the other gears. I had spoken in my video how I like the gearing in the Himalayan. They're almost like a feather touch gear, but sometimes I feel that the Himalayan lacks that tactile feel of the changing the gears, which is there, which is present in this, also present in the Scrambler. The GS I would rate the lowest in terms of gear changes because it's nice. My GS has settled for after about 20,000 kilometers odd, but then there is some kind of a clunkiness about the gear and false neutrals. Changing from first gear to second gear is still a problem sometimes in traffic situation. You have to be a certain amount of RPM in order to be able to change gear smoothly. Here it's not the case. It just needs a flick of your toe and you are able to switch between gears very nicely, and you are able to feel the change in the gear shifts. Very nice gear feel, same as the Scrambler, I would say. The Scrambler and the ADV will be the best gear feel in this category. It's a rising sun right now. Very soon it's going to be a blazing sun. But before that happens, I have to finish my ride and my review. Then I'll go to the coffee shop to enjoy my morning brew and contemplate on the ride that I've undertaken today. Okay, we have an open stretch of road, and this is the time to test the highway manners of the ADV 390 Adventure-X. I'll come to the difference between the Adventure-X and the other versions of the ADV 390, but essentially they're the same engine with a little bit of, or little less of, a little bit more or little bit less frills here and there. Essentially my review today is not about the features, it's about the ride feel in city riding conditions, in semi-off-road conditions, and on the highway, which is 90% of the rides most of us will undertake any day. So here we are on the open highway, and I'm going to twist open the throttle a little bit. I'm traveling right now at 4,000 RPM and I'm doing 50 km per hour comfortable. About 3,000 RPM this bike has no problem, you can do any gears. So 3,000 RPM plus, I have shifted to the 6th gear. No, I need to be above 4,000 RPM. It's still stuttering, but this is the problem with this bike, it is not comfortable at lower gears. It will urge you to move faster, and it has to be a very engaging ride. So when you have to shift gears so often, you have to be constantly on the alert about which gear you should be in right now. Fortunately, the speedo console is very nice, although this is not the fancy TFT console of the SW version or the standard version, it is LCD version, but nonetheless, the BMW also has a similar kind of speedo console, and you can see all the essential figures, so they are very legible and very visible in your line of vision, not a problem. A tad less than the BMW and the Himalayan, those kind of fall in your line of vision are better ergonomically, I would say. But this is also not bad, better than the Scrambler at least, which has a kind of street bike kind of demeanor. Now I'm traveling at 3000 RPM, 5th gear. Let me pick up the speed. I'm at 60 km per hour, 73 km per hour. RPM has moved to 5000 RPM. Let me go to 6000 RPM. I'm doing 81 km per hour. I'm on the 6th gear, picking up speed. Smooth as a butter. Above 4000 RPM, this bike is a good to drive, let me tell you. So I am at 99, 100 comes up in a jiffy, not a problem. 100 km per hour, 103, 6000 RPM. I am closing to 7000 RPM. It's 121, 124, 127. Wow, amazing. So if high speeds is your cup of tea, then this is the bike, this is the saddle you should be on. So 120 comes in the blink of an eye. It's not like that on my GS, I can tell you. On my GS, you can touch 120 easily, but you will realize that after this the going is getting tougher. It's exiting its comfort zone. But this bike probably till 140 it will be in its comfort zone. So 120 to 140 should not be a problem. It's only that I don't have the roads over here. This is not the kind of road, and this is not the objective of my ride today also, because when you're cruising on the highway, the most common speeds you'll be doing is between 100 and 120 km per hour. So that's what I'm testing today. Seldom do we ride at speeds exceeding 120 km per hour, unless you're riding something like a 650cc or a super bike. Not a problem. Running out of road. One thing I can tell you, this bike gives you a lot of confidence in terms of overtaking. So even at higher speeds, you know that you have enough grunt at the twist of a throttle so that you can easily overtake high speed vehicles. So now, it's actually scary the way it picks up acceleration. If you're not careful, that's why you have a lot of incidents happening with KTMs, because the way they deliver speed at higher RPMs, my goodness, you need really to be an experienced rider. It's not a nice machine in the hands of novice riders, you know. See, a small twist of throttle and everything will just vanish behind you into oblivion. This is not something to experience with my GS, is what I can tell you. Some amount of broken patches ahead of us, and I'm going to go to the same place where I love taking a long look at these lovely machines that move over minds and move over souls and move over bodies along with it. So here you can see some bumpy roads, pothole roads, not a problem with adventure vehicles like this. Lovely. So there is a small patch of off-road, a semi-off-road kind of thing. It's a soft road, I would not say off-road patch, which I have to cross in order to come to the place where I love taking these long looks at these lovely machines. And we are going to talk about the machine a little more in detail, about this particular machine, the KTM 390 ADV Adventure-X. And we have the lovely sun in the horizon, the Kolar hills in the background, and a rising sun, not a blazing sun yet. So this is the right time to come here and enjoy your camaraderie with machines like the ADV 390, the Himalayan, the GS, or the Scrambler. I am in love with this segment of machines. There you are. I will get off the road. I love crossing those off-road sections, and well, here we are. I have to take a left turn over here. We have some big Triumphs and Transalp, Honda. Wow, lovely machine. ADVs, but of a different category. So there is a small patch of off-road section over here. Observe carefully. I'll try and focus the camera down. So there are broken roads, gravels, not a problem. I'm sitting on my ADV still. I'll try and saddle. Lovely, not a problem. With a handlebar razor, this will be fantastic now. But at low speeds, the gearbox is a little snatchy, and this is what kind of unsettles it a little bit. Otherwise, the suspension, the engine is quite capable. So this is not the case with the Himalayan, definitely not the case with the Triumph Scrambler, is what I can tell you. Lovely, but not a problem. Doing off-road sections with the suspension travel of 170 mm, what I guess. I'll put up the figures, compare the suspension travels of all these machines, have a look at it. Another good ergonomic thing I like about this bike is the position of the stand. This is what I didn't like about the Himalayan. You know, the Himalayan had kind of a too slanting a stand, and sometimes it's difficult to park in parking situations like this. Not a problem with the GS, not with the Scrambler, and not a problem with the ADV either. So take a good look at the Adventure 390X. Lovely machine, isn't it? You know, it's got a very unique look. I'll talk about looks and appeal when I put my GS and the ADV 390 side by side. But the lovely background, first let's admire nature a little bit. The sun ahead of us, you know, the lovely mountains of the Kolar hills, the rising sun, amazing. And as you can see, the lovely machine, the edgy looking KTM 390 Adventure-X, that's right in front of us, and we are here admiring the beauty that's driven us to this lovely destination. After my ride review today, I'm going to cross the same small off-road section and see how it feels, because I had taken this small turn on my GS, the Scrambler and the Himalayan, a few weeks back. The videos are up on my channel. You can hit subscribe, or you can have a look, browse through the content. All of them are there, all the ride reviews. And here it is, undulations, rocky terrain. Wow, not a problem. And what is good about this machine, at least, is, and the GS also, is the lovely body balance. The weight is very evenly distributed, and you have no problem managing the weight, even though they are both almost the same weight. The GS is about 175 kilos, this is about 177 kilos. The Himalayan here, I would say, feels a little heavy. Turning, you don't get the kind of confidence with which, the ease with which you could turn both the GS as well as the ADV. The ADV is a little easier because somehow the dimensions feel a little compact compared to the GS. The GS dimensions feel a little kind of larger compared to, I think that's on purpose, because if you're someone with a larger or generous proportion, then probably you'll be more comfortable with the GS. So after riding all the four bikes, what is the one thing that I wish my GS had, which will kind of make it a winner over all these bikes in this category? I will keep everything else aside. The one thing that I wish the next upgrade the GS brings in, because right now it's almost 5-year old, it's time for an upgrade, is the engine. The engine is not bad. Of course, it doesn't sound as great as the Scrambler or the Himalayan, I would say. The GS and the ADV probably sounds similar in terms of the engine feel, but this is significantly more powerful. So it's not that 6 PS or 7 PS of power will make a earth-shattering difference, but it does make a difference. It makes a difference at lower speeds when you're pulling or when you're trying to overtake. So I wish the new GS has a higher engine capacity, and it kind of goes to the 400cc mark and has a higher power figure in terms of bhp, and in terms of torque it just has 28 newton meters of torque, vis-a-vis these three machines which have around 37 to 40 newton meters of torque, the Scrambler, the ADV and the Himalayan all. So the difference is quite apparent. And the next thing which I wish the GS will change is the gearbox. It feels a little clunky, and if there is a third wish I was granted, I wish it will be the engine sound. I don't like the sound of the engine. There is really no character of the engine, so I wish the engine had more character and it sounded better. These are the three wishes I have, and I hope BMW is listening to me. If all my three wishes are granted, I will again buy another GS in the same segment, that is for sure. Otherwise, I have no complaint about the BMW G310 GS, also not about any of those vehicles. And I particularly love this ADV 390 because of the kind of engine pull, the kind of grunt it has at the higher RPMs.
Okay, first of all, Arif, thank you so much for having me on your vlog, and of course giving me the chance to ride this absolute beauty of a bike. I got a chance to ride this for about 30 kilometers when we were coming down the Kolar highway. So my review is going to be based on these 30 kilometers itself. Now the first thing that was noticeable for me is people who have speed on their priority. This is a very, very powerful bike. After 6,000 RPM, it's a rocket ship. So if speed is number one priority, then I think you should buy this eyes closed from a touring perspective. But then for me, touring is also the speed as well as the comfort that comes with it. And over here, what I felt was definitely the vibrations and buzz will cause a bit of an issue if that's one of your priorities, to have less vibrations as well, but then that's a given in a high compression single cylinder bike. Number two, what I felt was the bike suspension stays quite flat and stable. We were able to do speeds of around 140-150 down the Kolar highway, and the bike was extremely stable. However, I definitely felt that the tires require a lot more feedback. I wouldn't suggest using these tires for very long, especially if the first pair is done. Just go for a new pair of tires, because that's what was the fly in the ointment when I was riding down the Kolar highway. So this is actually the 390 Adventure-X model, which is bare bones, which is what I also prefer. Don't like too many electronics coming in between me and my bike. So that way it was pretty decent, but then like I mentioned, I think the only takeaway from this is just the tires. I think it was a fly in the ointment. Second thing is, I think compared to bikes like Himalayan, Scrambler, as well as if we're looking at the GS, I felt the foot peg position was a little bit knees high for me. It's a bit sporty. So do test ride the bike first before you make any decision.
Okay, so that's Rahul for you and his opinion about riding the Adventure 390X for a brief spell. And I will add my personal opinion also, and you can have a look at the unedited portion of the video as to what both of us felt, so that there is a little kind of a ruling out or ironing out of the biases that would creep in. So as you can see, differences can exist in terms of whether you like one design language more or the other more. For example, if you look at the ADV 390, it has got a very edgy and very modern looking design. No right and wrong, but it can be a little polarizing as far as individual tastes are concerned. Some people will like it a lot, others may not, because they would like a more traditional ADV stance. If you see the headlight, which is almost like a alienish kind of look, and you have the edgy fuel tank and the edgy way the seats and the tail section ends actually, but lovely. Both the machines give you a feeling that they are meant for a purpose, built for a purpose. They are ready to go the long distance, as well as they are ready to go off the beaten track whenever the road ends and off-roading starts. So both of them give that kind of a feeling. The GS has a more conventional design belonging to the GS family, which people have started loving across the world over a period of time, and it does resemble the larger GS, the 1250 and the 850, in terms of the size, the proportions, the beak, the flowing lines and everything. So the looks can be a little subjective, but nonetheless I think more people will love the looks of the GS compared to that of the ADV 390. But this is for you to take a good long look at both the machines and come to a decision as which is the one you would love in terms of the looks, as far as the looks are concerned. Then of course I have ridden both the vehicles in the morning and have shared my opinion about how do they feel in terms of riding dynamics, both inside the city and on the open highway. A little bit of off-roading, not much, and do watch the full video so that you get a good idea about how do they compare as far as the highway riding manners are concerned. I have other videos comparing the Himalayan, the Scrambler 400X. Interesting times we have in front of us with interesting vehicle, and this is a fantastic segment, 300 to 400 cc segment, adventure touring segment, where you can do a lot of things with these vehicles. They are kind of master of a lot of trades. Of course, these are big investments for Indians like us, where our average per capita GDP ranges between 2 to 3,000 dollars. I think this is a lot of money. 3.5 lakh to 4 lakh rupees is a little more than that when you buy the ADV 390 top spec version or the GS310. But that's the premium brand value you pay for. And this is a lot of money and like a bang for your buck, and that's why I undertake these rides and share my experience of riding these machines, and for your sake, so that you can take an informed decisions about where you would like to put your money on. So if your objective is mostly city riding, eyes closed, you can go for the Scrambler 400X is what I feel. If your objective is enthusiastic riding on the highways, sometimes on the cities, then inside the city, then of course you can go with this machine, the Adventure 390, fantastic machine. You can decide whether you want all the frills or less of frills will do for you, and you would like to save over 60-70,000 rupees with the Adventure-X version, the one I'm riding today, not a problem at all. or you would like to have the planted feel of the heavy Himalayan. If you're okay with the weight of the Himalayan but you love the size, then you can go for the Himalayan. But if you would like a best of all worlds, then you can go with the GS. Of course, you have to shell a little more of money for purchasing the vehicle. It's almost 4.5 lakh on road Bangalore. Pretty expensive, just next to the Adventure 390 top spec version. And the maintenance is of course also expensive for the BMW. That's the price you pay for owning a premium brand, you know. Luxury brands don't intend to always offer you the best value for money. Luxury brands tend to offer you a kind of a ownership experience of owning a premium brand, right? And so that's the price you pay for owning the BMW. Not so much of frills, but fantastic experience. I think BMW is a genius. It's a legend in terms of manufacturing ADV vehicles, whether it is 1250 or the 850 or the legendary adventure tourers that BMW builds internationally. And I think some of the DNA and the genes are inculcated inside the GS310 also. So you can take a test ride and take a decision which is the bike that you would prefer. It's end of the day your money and your choice. I'm only here to give my opinion about and share my experience about riding these lovely machines. I would request you to hit the subscribe button because such reviews will keep on coming. Apart from lovely destinations that I visit in and around Bangalore, if you're a working professional like me, you just have your weekends or a sudden midweek holiday like this, 1st of May, and you would like to hit some nice destination in and around Bangalore, hit subscribe on my channel so that you will always be updated and never have a dull weekend in your life in Bangalore.